Hello, everyone, and welcome back in for the return of Palmetto Playbook. We know it's been a minute. We got new faces here. I'm Alan Marcus Harder.
I'm TJ Turner.
I've always said, something's going bad when you see me on camera. But thankfully, we're here to talk sports. You don't have to worry about that. I'm a producer here. I've been here for 6 years. I'm normally behind the scenes. This is a change, but obviously, I love sports, so a welcome change.
I've been here for a couple months now, and I'm part of the digital team here. And I've played college sports and have always been a huge sports fan my whole life. And
So we'll jump right back into it. Busy weekend for the college football landscape world. I thought going into this week, obviously coming off of week one where there was a bunch of high marquee matchups, Alabama, Florida State, Texas, Ohio State. Coming into this week, looking at the schedule, I wasn't really too impressed, but there was definitely some shakeups.
There's some fireworks this week for sure. It was actually the second highest scoring week in the history of college football for top 25 teams. I mean, you had 73 from Alabama, 70 points from Oregon. You had so
Florida
many.
State was up there
games.
as well.
I think they had 77.
Yeah, they put it on. I'd say part of that is because of these week two matchups. Most of these high teams are playing FCS opponents, which they should be scoring these high amount of points, but some teams, as we'll discuss later, struggled with these lesser opponents.
Some games we expected to be like that, and some of them. I think who was it? 69-3. Was it Oregon State?
Yeah, Oregon played Oklahoma State.
Or Oklahoma State, yeah.
Yeah.
It was Oregon and Oklahoma State. I didn't think Oklahoma State's usually at least in the middle of the pack there, but
yeah,
I did not
when
see
I heard
coming.
that score, I assumed Oregon was just playing like I don't want to offend anyone, but like a nobody school, like an FCS opponent. But then I heard they were playing Oklahoma State, and I was like, whoa,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't expect that game.
Yeah.
And then here, CCU, that was another unimpressive win, and it looks like Tim Beck's starter at quarterback hasn't panned out so far this season, with MJ Morris getting benched for Tad Hudson in the second half.
Yeah, there's offensive struggles, and then there's whatever's going on in Conway right now. That's putting up, I believe it was literally just 13 points against an FCS opponent in Charleston Southern. MJ Morris, 3 interceptions, no touchdowns. Literally, they had to bring in Tad Hudson to get that one rushing touchdown. There's a lot of, there was rumors about the hot seat being warm for Tim Beck coming into this season. From what I've seen these first 2 games, that seat is getting warmer and warmer by the day.
Yeah, it's definitely been tough for him so far this season, and last season wasn't exactly what they wanted to get out of the year either.
Yeah.
A lot of guys left this offseason as well.
Yeah, I feel like that's become the name of the game, especially in this NIL era.
Yeah,
But
college football is just not the same anymore.
Yeah.
You've got guys leaving every year, and you had, I think, Marshall, which is another Sun Belt team. They had the entire roster.
Well, yeah, because their head coach went to Southern Miss, which was like the lowest ranked Sun Belt team last year. Basically took the entire roster with them on, and that's also a reason Marshall didn't even play in their bowl game last year because their entire roster was
They
going.
didn't have a team. And then big news in the stadium for CCU
Yeah.
the new concessions. Everybody was talking about that in the offseason, and they sold a lot of hot dogs.
Yeah, while the action on the field may be less than impressive, Chance Miller has done a real good job, at least in my opinion, to make the fan experience. The free concessions, free popcorn, free hot dogs, free soda. Let's put it into perspective. The stadium capacity for Brooks Stadium is 21,000. The university came out on Monday announcing that they sold 27,000 hot dogs during the game, which, I mean, if I was in that stadium, I would take advantage of that deal. I can't blame people.
Can't pass up a free hot dog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure those concession workers were excited for that game to be over with. That's a lot of hot dogs to be dealing out.
And then across the state, USC this past weekend, that was a long delay in that game. I wasn't sure if they were even going to end up playing it on Saturday.
Yeah, they never being at the stadium. I got there around, I want to say 3 o'clock. Weather was fine. We came to like 6 o'clock where we're taking down our tailgate. We look in the distance and we see the storms, and we're trying to figure out if it's coming towards us. We end up going inside the stadium, waiting. Kickoff was supposed to be at 7. Like, it starts raining at like 6:30, 6:45. We're just on the concourse for honestly like 2 hours waiting for an update. And yeah, kickoff was around, I want to say like a little after 9 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. I don't think the game got over until after midnight.
No, yeah, because my brother and I left after the first touchdown in the second half. We were already in Sumter at like 12:30 at night when it finally ended.
Yeah, it was an exciting game though when it started. I mean, the offense and defense for USC has been kind of coming into form as the season goes on, but the special teams have been impressive. 2 punt return touchdowns this week.
Yeah,
that's a
good
good
on
week.
To the effect that Vicari Swain had a punt return touchdown literally last week against Virginia Tech as well. The defense and special teams is definitely carrying South Carolina right now, which is kind of crazy because coming into this season, I figured their offense would be the special or their strongest of the three.
I mean, yeah. Starting the season, I mean, everybody, even preseason, was looking at Lenora Sellers as a Heisman candidate. Looking at this, I saw it was labeled as the highest powered offense in the SEC, which is a big label to put on a team, especially in that conference.
Yeah.
And the first 2 weeks, they haven't lived up to it, but they've been able to pass by with a couple of nice wins because of their defense and special teams. They got 2 punt return touchdowns and a defensive touchdown this past week.
Partly, I don't even think it's necessarily the players right now. At least in my opinion, it seems like the play calling has been. I feel like they haven't opened up the full book yet, just yet for Lenora Sellers. When you got a Heisman candidate worthy quarterback and Lenora Sellers, and you're not, at least in my opinion, I feel like we're not using him to his full potential just yet this season. Not to mention our offensive line has been a very big struggle. So for these first 2 games, not holding blocks against SC State and FCS opponent, that's a big red flag coming into SEC competition coming up.
It's definitely not going to get any easier as the season goes on. Yeah, I mean, their skill positions, Nick Harbor, I mean, obviously Lenora Sellers, can't talk about him enough, they're great players. They have great athletes on the field. If they can shore up the offensive line and give Lenora Sellers a little bit more freedom, I think they could definitely make a run in the SEC. And then moving over to Clemson this past week, I thought they were going to lose that game for a long time. It ended up, I think it was 16-6.
Yeah,
or
I believe
something
so.
like that with not long to go in the game, but they ended up pulling it out. That team's they've had a couple of scary ones first couple weeks.
Yeah, I mean, full disclosure, I'm a South Carolina Gamecocks fan since I was from birth. I went to the University of South Carolina, so to no surprise here, I was pulling for Troy. Just for pettiness sake. But yeah, Clemson turned it on in the second half, like they should have.
Yeah.
Came away with the win. But I know it's a game that Tiger fans would not have been pleased with for obvious reasons, struggling with Troy in the first half. But it seems like they turned it around in the second half, and hopefully they can carry that momentum, I guess, going.
Yep, and then another Heisman hopeful in Cape Klubnik. He's not been playing well at the start of the season. Everybody was looking at him as a Heisman candidate and potentially a top 5 pick in this upcoming draft, and he's not been living up to that hype in the season so far. We'll see if he can carry over into the next games and pick his game up and see if he can compete for the Heisman.
Yeah, I guess I will. I'll always say I'd never believed the hype with coming into this season. Don't get me wrong, he's definitely a really good quarterback, but these big game matchups, to me, he hasn't shown out just yet.
Yeah.
Last year, going 0-3 against the SEC, he did play well against Texas, but I'll give him credit for that. He did have a really good game against Texas, but Clemson ended up falling short in that game. He had the opportunity to lead Clemson to a win against LSU. Fell short in that game. To me, he is really good, but he just hasn't had that big moment just yet.
Yeah, he's been putting up numbers. He's been playing well. He's been throwing up crazy numbers against the ACC opponents, and when they get into bowl games, he seems to slow down a little bit, and he hasn't really had his Heisman moment yet.
Yeah.
We're still waiting for that. And we had an almost upset there, Clemson and Troy, but there was a big upset this week, USF beating Florida.
Yeah,
that was a big game.
Funny. There was a lot of hype around Florida coming into this season as well. The way they ended last season, having DJ Lagway coming back as quarterback. This is another one of those games that coming into this week, I didn't think anything of it. Then I see the score late in the fourth quarter. I see Florida struggling. It was to my surprise. Yeah.
Yeah, this is one of those games where you see it coming into the week, and I was like, I might take a peek at the game. I'm not really going to be worried about that because you'd think Florida would just run away with it. And then in the fourth quarter, you get the notification from ESPN, and then there's 18 upset alert. Yeah. And it ended up being 18-16, which I would have thought there would be a lot more points on the board, especially with how high-powered Florida's offense has been at the end of last year and the start of this year. And then USF in week 1 beat Boise State. They've got 2 ranked wins already.
I think they play Miami this week on the CW network. Probably the highest matchup on the CW network. But the schedule for Florida obviously doesn't get any easier. I believe they have LSU coming up this week. They have, I want to say LSU, Miami, Texas A&M within the next 5 games. I think Tennessee may be in there as well. They have some top 25 matchups coming up this week, which is probably not what you want to see after suffering a home loss to South Florida.
Yeah, it's looking like Billy Napier's job might be looking like he's got a chance of getting out of there soon. They're calling for his job down there in
They've been
Florida.
calling for his job for the past 5, probably since he got there.
Yeah, he hasn't really lived up to the Florida expectations, especially because they've been such a powerhouse in college football for at least my whole life.
But then staying in the state of Florida, Florida State has definitely turned it around since last season. Last year they had, I think, 2 total wins the entire season.
2-10.
They're already at 2 wins this season, but they are only up from here.
Yeah, it's been a great year for them so far, and it makes you wonder if they turned it around completely or if they've just had a couple of good weeks. I mean, Castellanos has been looking like a Heisman candidate the first 2 weeks. I mean, he put up an insane stat line against Alabama, who was supposed to be the best defense in the nation coming into the season, and he put up an insane stat line. He had, I think, 3 or 4 touchdowns.
Probably.
And they ran in a couple, threw for quite a few, and there was even a few opportunities for them to score more with a couple of drops from key receivers in the big moments in that game.
Well, yeah, to his credit, when during this offseason, he made that statement saying Alabama better be ready for us. I'll be honest, I didn't expect him to live up to that, but to his credit, he's walked the walk and he's lived up to that, and he's playing really well.
Yeah. Before the season, when he came out, and usually challenging Alabama is not usually a good idea. I mean, preseason or during the season, whenever anybody, it always starts at some point. There's the "we want Bama" chants and the "we can't wait for that week," and usually it ends in a big loss to whatever team's talking. But this time it ended in a field storming, which usually isn't the case when somebody says something like that against, especially the University of Alabama, who's definitely had a couple of down years after losing Saban, and you could tell that's definitely weighing on him. And even another hot seat, Kalen DeBoer's. If he can't turn the season around soon, Tuscaloosa is going to be gunning for his job.
Coming in after Saban that's the hardest job in college football history right there. But I always felt like you win 10 games in Washington, you're celebrated, you get a contract extension. You only win 10 games at Alabama, fans are wanting you out.
Yeah, he won 10 games in Washington with a playoff berth, and they gave him they were cheering him on. They wanted a big extension, and he went to Alabama. He won 10 games.
That's that's below the bare minimum at Alabama.
Yeah, if you don't make the playoff, you should get fired there. But anywhere else, that's a great season. But last year, 10 wins. I mean, it was a disappointing season to the standards of Alabama football, but in the grand scheme of football, 10 wins, it's a pretty good year.
Yeah.
Especially in the SEC. And especially in NIL, the SEC's pretty much leveled itself out.
Yeah.
There's, 5 or 6 teams that are gunning for that number 1 spot in the SEC, and it's pretty much anybody's league at this point. I mean, you've got LSU, Texas, Tennessee,
Georgia,
Alabama, and then Oklahoma and Texas have been really good as they came into the SEC. They've definitely showed that they can belong and that they can make things happen in the SEC, even though some people thought that they shouldn't have joined. I mean, Texas was always a powerhouse, and you thought that they would have a good carryover into the SEC, but there was a lot of questions about Oklahoma, and they ended up upsetting Alabama last year too.
Yeah. I'd say Texas has definitely been better than Oklahoma. I know South Carolina went on the road and demolished Oklahoma. Oklahoma had struggles last year. But like you said, the SEC is just a bloodbath with all these these teams. You never know how it's going to turn out.
And it's only going to get worse in the coming years. They're going to add an extra conference game. I mean, they're adding more teams, so it makes sense to add another conference game to the schedule. But it's just going to make things harder and harder for the SEC. And it makes you wonder if that's going to have any playoff implications.
Yeah.
Because if you got an extra league game in there with how tough the conference is, you might see extra losses on the board for these teams. And it might end up costing them a playoff chance because they might have 2 or 3 losses instead of the 1 loss and then having non-conference games that they usually can win out.
Yeah, I'm also interested to see how it's going to play in with the non-conference schedule games that are already on the schedule. I know Alabama dropped their game with West Virginia next year. Coastal ended up stepping in, and they're going to play West Virginia. As of right now, South Carolina is supposed to play Miami to start next year. I wonder if that's going to change with the whole 9-game SEC schedule.
Yeah, a lot of changes going on in college football these days. It's kind of hard to keep up with it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're adding playoff games, they're adding league games, they're moving conferences, and then you've got coaches and players moving teams every week, it seems like.
Yeah.
And it's definitely been crazy since NIL has been introduced, and then they changed the playoff within the same couple of years, and it's been a lot of changes in college football. It's hard to keep up with them at this point.
Yeah. Before we wrap up college football, I guess we'll look ahead to this coming weekend. We'll start with Coastal. They're hosting East Carolina here at home. I believe it's a night game, 7 o'clock kickoff at Brooks Stadium. Hosting a team I'm not sure if they've played in football yet. But they've definitely had some rivalry games in baseball this year. They're hosting East Carolina, making the trip down from Greenville. The Coastal baseball team, that crowd for that regional was insane. I wonder if it's going to translate over for the football game this coming week.
If not for the football, for the hot dogs.
Yeah, true.
For the hot dogs. And this will be a big statement. If they can get a win, if Coastal can pull out a win this week, it'll be a big statement game and might be able to carry some momentum going into Sunbelt play.
Yeah, that's a big if though with what we've seen these first 2 weeks. I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but I'm not expecting too much from Coastal unless they make some big changes during this week.
If they're going to turn it around, it's got to start this week.
Yeah,
though. I think if they can't turn it around if this game doesn't go as well as they need it to, I think it could be a rough year for Tim Beck, and it might be the end of his career.
I agree. Going up just over the road into Columbia, the Gamecocks are hosting. They start SEC play hosting Vanderbilt this weekend at a 7:45 kickoff. A night game it will be. All the fans will be excited. It could be a closer game than I thought just a couple weeks ago, just given the offensive struggles that we've seen so far. The offense for South Carolina definitely needs to step up their game if they're going to do well in the SEC, and so far I haven't seen that just yet.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be a battle for the SEC, and especially this week. Usually Vanderbilt on the schedule is another game that you usually look at and don't worry about at all. But this past couple of years, I mean, Diego Pavia has been great, and last year they upset Alabama, and they've definitely carried the momentum into the end of last year and then into this year. So Vanderbilt's definitely a team that you shouldn't overlook anymore.
I believe South Carolina has 16 straight wins over Vanderbilt, but also, like you just mentioned, Diego Pavia still there. I believe during the offseason when he was asked about the games he was looking forward to this season, I believe he said, we have that South Carolina game circled on our schedule. And what we've seen with South Carolina, we can't let anyone – we can't overlook anyone. But hopefully the offense steps up. The offensive line needs to do much better to block The running game has basically been non-existent because there's no room for anyone to run through because our offensive line is getting overpowered. But yeah, it could be a tricky matchup. Hopefully South Carolina looks better, but we'll see.
And who's Clemson got this week?
They're on the road playing Georgia Tech, I believe, at noon in Atlanta. I believe Clemson will be able to handle business there.
Yeah, they
It
should
could
take
be a
care
close
of it.
game. I think Georgia Tech's 2-0 to start this season. I can't remember exactly who they've played.
Yeah, I don't know who they've played so far. They finished last year well.
Yeah.
They had 4 or 5 overtimes against Georgia to finish the year.
Yeah.
Yep. Haynes King has looked good the past couple of years. He's still there. So there's always a team to look out for, and you never know what can happen on any given Saturday. But I think Clemson, they should take care of business.
Yeah. If
Georgia.
anything, Clemson's defense will be their strong suit. I'm sure Dabo is preaching up their offense needs to clean their things up as well.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like they'll be ready for their challenge as well.
Yeah, their defense should be able to win that game in itself. And if their offense can clean up kind of the struggles they've had the first couple of weeks, you could see that game get out of hand early.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then moving to the NFL, this past week we had a lot of one-score games, which is usually not the case in week 1. Usually one team tends to get out ahead. I mean, you had the game Monday night with the Bears and the Vikings, which came down to the end. That was a big comeback.
Yeah.
They were down, I think, 21 points to start the fourth quarter, and they ended up coming back. And then another comeback on Sunday night with the Ravens and the Bills. It was 40-25, I believe, to start the fourth quarter.
Yeah, because I looked at my phone, I saw the score, and to the Bills' credit, I just assumed the game was going to be over with by this point. But then I flip over and the game's over with, and I see the Bills won, and I was shocked.
We've learned in the last couple of years, there's a couple quarterbacks you just can't ever count out of the game. I mean, Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, obviously Patrick Mahomes. You can't ever count them out of a game because they're going to find a way.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's a way for them to come back in the game, they'll make it happen. I mean, that was especially the Ravens, with how stout the Ravens' defense has been the past couple of years. And, I mean, their offense has obviously been great. I mean, they have Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers. They signed DeAndre Hopkins this offseason, so he scored a touchdown this past week. I mean, they've got all the weapons and they've got all the talent on defense that you'd think they'd be able to just put that game away.
Yeah, but you mentioned, this week 1, we've definitely seen some. Yeah, we should have known something this week was going to be good when we saw the Cowboys and Eagles and all the fireworks in that game. I just assumed the Eagles were going to run away with that game.
Oh yeah.
But the Cowboys, the Cowboys played. I guess they played better than I guess their fans expected. Partly because the Eagles' best defensive player got kicked out of the game before the first snap. Yeah. Spitgate 2025.
Yeah, that was definitely an interesting start to the year. I mean, the first thing that happens is somebody gets kicked out for spitting on another player. It's
then
definitely an interesting start.
like a fight. Basically, a fight breaks out like the first drive. Yeah. We should have known we were in for a good week of NFL.
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles and the Cowboys get together. There's always going to be something that goes on. Extracurriculars going on the field. I mean, it always happens. And it was a great game. It was a great start to the season. You had a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
It was a great game. There was some great football being played. I mean, there was obviously some banter and things going on after the whistle, before the whistle. Yeah. A lot of things going on week 1. But it was a great start to the season. Great first week of football, definitely, for the NFL. And the college football season's coming into form early. Yeah. Already big upsets, already big games, big storylines. Everything's starting off. Getting into storylines for the NFL, we've got some awards, picks for awards. My pick for MVP this year is going to be Josh Allen. I think he's going to do it again. I mean, especially after that first week and that performance he put on to come back and win that game. Yeah. I think he's going to run away with the MVP award again. I mean, he won it last year. I think Lamar Jackson should have won it last year. But
you can make the argument for that. Yeah. I think both of them were more than they had. There was an argument to be made for both of them.
For sure. I think Lamar should have won it last year. I think Josh Allen's going to win it this year. And then other awards, I mean, you've got Offensive Player of the Year, which I think is going to go probably to Saquon Barkley or Justin Jefferson. If I had to make a couple picks there, I'd probably think one of those two guys are going to win it. And Derrick Henry might be another guy who's got a chance to win it. I mean, he's always got the opportunity to rush for 2,000 yards and as many touchdowns as he wants. as many times as they give him the ball on the goal line, he's going to punch it in.
He's on my fantasy team, so let's hope that's the case. The more carries and more touchdowns, the better for him.
And then defensive player of the year, my pick is going to be Micah Parsons. I think he's gonna thrive in that Green Bay defense. I think they're just going to let him loose and let him play. I mean, this past week, first game there, he doesn't really know the defense yet, doesn't know much of the calls. So he was definitely on a light snap count. They weren't letting him play as much because he doesn't know the schemes. But I think as he gets into the defense, I think he's definitely gearing up for big sack numbers this year.
I think the big question mark for him is just can he stay healthy? I think he's had issues with that in the past, and even I think this offseason. But when he's on the field, he's definitely a difference maker.
Yeah, I think he can definitely make or break a defense.
Yeah.
And I think we saw that with the Cowboys this past week. I think if anybody watching that game could definitely tell you the biggest thing they were missing was a pass rush.
Yeah, if only they had a Micah Parsons on their team to go up against the Eagles.
If only they had a dominant edge rusher to shore up that defense, I think they would have been better off. In the Carolinas, we've got the Panthers. I mean, they're still figuring it out. They're going to have some growing pains probably for a couple more years.
Yeah.
A lot of young guys. I mean, Bryce Young, he showed a lot of promise at the end of last year when he was thrust back into the starting lineup. I mean, he's been great in college. He's showed definitely some bright spots moving forward, but he's definitely struggled at times as well.
For this week, playing against the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think it was a matchup with two teams that have the past couple of years have underperformed, so it was kind of interesting to see how they played against each other. And to Jacksonville's credit, I feel like they had control for most of the game, which kind of leads to question marks in Carolina again. But yeah,
I mean, they've got both those teams, a lot of young guys. I mean, you've got McMillan, who's just drafted by the Panthers, who he played well. He showed a little bit of promise this week. Obviously, Bryce Young struggled, so it's hard for a receiver to really show a whole lot if the quarterback's struggling to get him the ball. And then Renfro from down here in Saukesty, he got cut, and then he got re-signed after they traded Thielen away. And he had a couple catches this week, and I think they've just got to get their young guys going. And I think same thing with Jacksonville, who they played against. They've got a lot of young players on the team, and they've just got to get them up to speed and get them back in form, which is a lot of things that need to happen in the first couple weeks, especially when you have a lot of young guys.
Yeah, it is the first week, so I guess we don't want to overreact just yet. There's still 17 more weeks to go.
There's a lot of weeks in the NFL
something
now.
Like that.
I mean, I think they can definitely turn it around. I think the Panthers have had a couple of rough years. They're obviously rebuilding. They're getting as many young pieces as they can, trading away players for draft picks, drafting young guys, and I think they're definitely on the right path. They just haven't quite gotten the young talent to really come to form as they want them to.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see where they go from here. And then making the switch from football to baseball, it's a big week for our Myrtle Beach Pelicans taking on the Columbia Fireflies in a 3-game, I believe it's the divisional series. They play Tuesday, they go on the road Thursday to Columbia, and if they're a winner takes all game Friday, I believe, here in Myrtle Beach, if it comes down to that. But it'll be interesting to see how that they've played, I guess, pretty good this season.
Yeah, I mean, I know before the season, we've talked about it before, the Pelicans weren't expected to even be thinking about the postseason.
Yeah.
I mean, they planned stadium renovations to start at the end of the year. Even it looks like the people in the clubhouse didn't think that they were going to make it, starting with planning for renovations when the season was ending. But they've definitely picked it up in the end of the year, and they're coming into the playoffs, and we'll see what they do this week.
Yeah, it's always tricky in minor league. You can't be too good, because if you're too good, those players get moved up. So we'll see.
You don't want to be too good, because then you lose all your players.
But it's definitely an exciting time for the Myrtle Beach Pelicans making a return to the playoffs. We'll see how they go, how they fare against the Fireflies.
Yep, should be an interesting series, and they've always got a lot of stuff going on in the stadiums and minor league games. Yeah. It's always fun to see the little promotions and everything going on in the stadium, especially the Pelicans, and we'll see. I bet you it comes to a winner-take-all game on Friday, you'll definitely see some fireworks and things going on in the stadium on Friday.
Which, I mean, that would be interesting to see how that plays out, because obviously we got Friday night football and high school football around. So we'll see how the crowds mix with that. But, yeah, definitely exciting time around here.
All right.
Yeah, and so thank you all for watching. The new era of Palmetto Playbook will be back with back here next week for week 2.